In life, there are so many resources that we can attain and add up. When I say resources, you might be an environmentalist and think coal, fuel, gas. Those are natural resources. You might think of money, houses, cars, assets, boats, snowmobiles, and skis. A little reference to Dr. Dre there back in the day. Resources. You might think of books, audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos. There are so many resources that we have in today's world, and it seems like there is no end to these resources. But there is one resource in our life that each of us have that we lose every day and we will never get back, and that is time. Time is that one resource that we have, and we're never guaranteed the next moment, and we're losing it every day. The clock is ticking down. I was reading an article recently about this actor who was investing heavily into stem cell therapies so he can, quote, add a few more years to his life. And this was an actor, if you look at his face, you'll recognize him right away as an actor who was very successful back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, and was a part of a lot of movies and shows and advertisements, you name it, and probably had every access to everything that he wanted in his life, and even still might. But at the end of the day, what he wants more of is time. A few more years to live out his life. Even last night, this thought just popped up into my mind. I was at a talk about a cancer therapy that is now on the market, talking to a friend of mine. I was asking him, what's the point of these therapies? And I don't mean that in a negative way. Obviously, this is my line of work. But what I meant to say was like, what's the benefit of a patient taking this medication? Obviously, you want to get better and you want to get healed and you want to get your life back on track. But he said, when it comes to these kinds of therapies and these diseases, what patients really want is time. They want to attend the next graduation. They want to be able to walk down the aisle. They want to make that birthday, that event. They want time. It's the most valuable resource that we have, but it's something that we take for granted because we're just so used to waking up every day to another day when we don't realize how unguaranteed that time is. And when I was reading John chapter 10, this is the passage where Jesus is talking about him being a good shepherd and how his sheep recognize and respond to his voice. And then in verse 10, he talks about how the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy, but he comes to bring life and bring life more abundantly. And as I was reading this, I thought about the thief. And when we think of an earthly thief, somebody who breaks into your house, they're going to steal whatever they find valuable, whatever they see as the most valuable. And in our life, we have a spiritual enemy, a spiritual thief, the devil. And if he is coming to break down into our spiritual house, what is the number one resource he is going to steal? It is our time. Because without time, we can't do anything else. If you're dead, you can't do anything else. If you're busy, if your time is taken up doing all of these other things, then you can't devote time into the other things that you want to do. Time is the most valuable resource. Thus, when the enemy comes after you, when the thief comes to steal, why not steal the most valuable resource the person has? Their time. When I was in my teenage years, my early 20s, even throughout all of my 20s, the concept of time was something that I did not value because I always saw time as something that is coming. I'm going to deal with this later. I'm going to get married later, have a career later. I'm going to deal with all of this later. My mind was very focused in on the week, on the weekend. Whatever was right in front of me, that's what I was indulging in. That's what I was going for. I didn't have this concept that time is running out. The valuable time that I have in my 20s as a single guy, as a person who lived far away from home, there are certain things that I look back and I realized I squandered my time. I have so many good stories though, don't get me wrong. A lot of memories, a lot of good stories, a lot of adventures that we went on. But when I look back, there are so many pockets of time, so many periods of time where I could have invested into different areas of my life and reaped the benefits today. And I don't know if it's something about when you hit 30. There's just something about when you hit 30, you're like, man, my 20s are gone. And in my mind, I see the 20s as like this vital decade of life where you can kind of make all the mistakes you want to make. And, if it's such a crucial period of time, a very formative time. I'm not saying that, once you hit your 30s, everything goes downhill or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. But as you get older, as your career progresses, as a marriage may come into your life and kids, it seems like time is just something you just don't have any anymore. You're just so busy. And you think back to the moments where you had all the time in the world and you romanticize about it. Oh man, oh, to be 22 again, moving away from home and having all the time to myself where nobody knew me in the city that I lived. And all I can do is just do whatever the heck I wanted to do. And I squandered it. And one of the biggest things that sucked time from my life was my giving into lusts and pornography, because it took away valuable time that I could have put into other areas of my life. And not only did it take away the time, but it took away my energy and my mental status to use the time that I did have wisely. We're going to go into more of the psychological effects of pornography and how it affects our body, how it affects our mind. But just for today, let's focus in on how it steals our time. That is the number one thing that pornography steals from you, and that is your time, your most valuable resource. And it's time. I feel like I've said time more times than I've said in my life in this one video. Time. We'll never get it back. Time is money, as a lot of rappers like to say. I was trying to look up a resource or a statistic here about how much time is spent every week looking at pornography for the average person. And I saw things from like 10 minutes to 5 hours. And honestly, I don't give a crap if it's 2 minutes or 5 hours a day. It's 2 minutes too long, because that is time that you can invest into some other area of your life that is going to reap a better reward. You will get nothing except for that momentary pleasure when you give into your lusts and sexual temptations. And this is a message that I want men specifically to understand. And we're going to get into why specifically men in 2 more episodes, because I really want us to understand this, especially the young guys who think that life is just coming. You just have so much life ahead of you, which is true. But also know that the devil knows that too. And the best way to ruin your life is to remove the most valuable resource, and that is your time. I heard this quote one day, and it went something along the lines of, in order to really mess up a man's life, all you have to do is fracture his attention, split up his attention into so many different things. And when we are giving into our lust, let's get really TMI for a minute. Think about when you're giving into your lust, when you're tempted to look at pornography. You spend time trying to find maybe you start off on Instagram for a little bit, you're scrolling and something comes across your screen, and the dopamine drip begins. The lust starts to grow. Okay? That's when it begins. Something triggers you, and the thought grows in your mind, and you keep scrolling a little bit longer. You click on that certain girl's page, and you go to her homepage, and you start scrolling across her homepage, and she is, of course, wearing nothing but nothing. And you click on her link in the bio. Of course, it's something OnlyFans related, something, whatever it is. Click, you know what I'm talking about. It seems almost, it's hard to find somebody who doesn't have that link in their profile these days. But you click the link, and then it takes you down this slope, and now you're on a pornography website, and you're trying to find the right video to get off on. This takes time. Literally, it takes time from the moment that begins to the moment you climax. There is a period of time there. I don't know what it is for you. I don't care what it is for you. It is time that you are wasting. It is time that you are giving away. It is energy that you are giving away. And not only are you losing the time, but you are losing the ability to say no for the next time it shows up. You are weakening your resolve. You are weakening your mental state to stay focused onto one thing as you scroll and scroll and scroll and try to find the next thing to get you off. You are also pushing back the threshold of what it takes to get you off. Once again, like I said, we're going to go into the psychological effects of pornography in a later video. But all of that sucks your time out of your life, out of your day, out of your week, out of your month. And I wonder if you were to take that time, maybe next time you're tempted and give into pornography and give into your temptations, put a timer on and see how much time of the day that took. And then multiply that by every day of the week, and multiply that by a month and then a year, and see how much time you are literally wasting away, literally draining out of your life. And then think, if I take that time and then invest it into my physical fitness, if I invest it into writing out a business plan for my life, if I invest it into having a phone call with somebody I haven't talked to in a long time, if I invest it into going for a walk with my dog, if I invest it into reading the Word of God, if I invest it into school, if I invest it into the million other things that you can invest into that are going to actually be beneficial for you, how much different would your life look? How much different would your life look? And I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who looks back at their life, who is looking back, and I think of all the times where I could have taken that time that I gave into lust and sexual sins, and if I took that time and invested it into something else, how much different would my life look today? How much different would your life look today? This is something I really want us men specifically to think about. But we have to understand that the biggest thing that we are losing as we give into lust and sexual temptations is time, the most valuable resource that we have. And I'm looking back at 31, at my 20s, at different things that I could have done. And there's nothing I can do about that time that I wasted. The only thing that I can do is to make sure that when I turn 41, I don't look back at the previous decade and say the same thing all over again. I don't want to look back at 41 and say, man, I could have spent my 30s being better about my time. I could have spent my 30s overcoming certain things. No, I'm not going to be saying that, and I don't want you to be saying that either. I want us to take a survey of our time, the most valuable resource that we have, and see, where is my time going to be utilized the best? What are some things in my life that are draining my time? And it doesn't have to be lust or sexual temptations. It could be Netflix. It could be hanging out with the wrong people. It could be watching YouTube videos, binging YouTube videos. That's a message for myself. There are so many things in our life that are trying to buy our attention. One quote that I heard recently is, if a certain company doesn't have a product, or if they have a product for free, for example, pornography, any pornography website, it's free. The reason it's free is because you are the product. Your attention is the product. If the product is free, then you are the product. Keep that in mind. So be able to be very vindictive about your time, vindictive about what is taking your time, be very vindictive about where your time is going. And as you get older, you'll start to realize the importance of saying no. This is something my mom was trying to teach me since I was a kid. The ability to say no, because my problem was I said yes to everything. But as you get older, you'll start to realize the value of saying no. And when you say no to one thing, it's so that you can say yes to something else. So as we say no to lust and sexual temptations, don't think to yourself, it just stings so bad, I really want to do it. No. Think to yourself, I am saying no to this so that I can devote my time to this, so that I can go and spend more time in what actually matters. I am saying no to lust so that I can spend more time with an intimate relationship with my future spouse, with my girlfriend, with my significant other, with my friends. I'm saying no to this so that my mental state will be better and I will be sharper when it comes to the gym, when it comes to my work, when it comes to my business. You are saying no to this. You are saying no to something that is going to suck out your time and drain your time so that you can spend your time doing something else. I'm getting really heated about this topic right now. We've talked about time. It is the most valuable resource you have, so stop wasting it. Pornography steals the number one resource in your life, and that is time. Now, the question is, what can we do to get our time back, to redeem our time, to make the most of our time? That's what we're going to talk about next.